Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're excited that you're here. And I'm congratulate you in advance for taking this time to invest in yourself and also invest in your business to learn more about the trends that we're seeing in the marketplace, especially from an industry and manufacturing sector, and what this means for you. What we're going to be talking about today is the AI invisibility, the number one, the new revenue leak the industrial and manufacturing sectors are facing. And not only the trend and the challenge that you're facing, also what you can do about this and how you can improve your online AI visibility so you can capture the market share before some of your competitors would. So we're excited that you're here, and I will assure you this is going to be very much an information-packed session. No fluff, no theories. It's going to be all practical things that you can implement in your business immediately. And we'll talk a little bit more about some of the things that you'll be getting. So as far as the topics that we're going to be covering, obviously, the seismic shift we're seeing in the market and the new rules from what actually is the process and what is happening in terms of the AI visibility, our MAPS framework, what we've been testing and proved to have worked for our customers in the industry and manufacturing sector, as well as the new metrics that you need to start measuring to see how do you measure success and how do you measure your progress, and ultimately some next steps on what you can do to improve your online AI visibility. So you might be wondering who we are. My name is Samuel Timothy, one of the co-founders of OneIMS. We're a digital marketing agency, our technology and marketing consultancy that's focused on B2B organization, primarily in the industrial and manufacturing sectors. We have 20 years of experience working with so many different companies in the different sizes and stages of their growth trajectory. And I'm joined by my colleague, Maria, and I'll have her introduce herself.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Maria, and I've been in the marketing space for over definitely 10 years, quite a bit, and I've been working with manufacturers across disciplines, machinery, services, everything, and seen a lot of what's changed with Google, with just how people search online and how that impacts the bottom line of businesses. So excited to be here today.
Yes. And to just validate our claims, what we're talking about here is not just some theories that we're making up. We've been working in the industry for 20 years, helping companies of so many sizes and shapes, mostly in the industry and manufacturing sectors. And we have plenty of client stories, companies in the electronic component manufacturing, private label packaging, in custom printing and manufacturing, and injection molding and thermoforming, and so many different industry verticals. We have customers in all of those sectors. So the information that we're packed in here are all things that we've been experimenting and testing for customers of different types and different shapes, and then different markets, and promoting so many different types of services. If you stay until the very end, we have several different resources we're making available. One is an AI visibility readiness checklist that you can use internally to go through and exercise yourself to kind of see where is your biggest gap and what the opportunity for improvement. And then also we'll talk to you about how we can help you do a much more deeper AI visibility audit and how to uncover what some of your biggest bottlenecks in getting found in AI search, and also what can be done to improve your online visibility there. So we'll talk about that in a few minutes. So before we get started, I want to do a quick pulse check. I wanted to make sure that you guys are not falling asleep already, and also just to get a sense of your utilization of AI tools. So you should be seeing our producer should have pushed out an a poll. You should see that now. And I'm seeing some of the responses coming in here. So the question was, are you currently using AI tools like ChatGPT, Gemini, or specialized in industrial AI, or specialized in any industrial AI for research or business purposes? And the majority of you are saying yes on daily or weekly. So that is a pretty impressive statistic. And this is exactly why we're having this conversation. So the topic that we're covering today isn't just a theory. It's not a future trend. It's actually the reality today. So many of you here, a good majority, right? Well over the good majority is actually talking about using it on a daily or weekly basis. So this is the biggest shift we've seen in the marketing sector in the last 20 years. We've all kind of lived through the days of Google's dominance in the search space. but we're seeing this drastic change in how this is all kind of taking place right in front of our eyes. There are several studies that have been conducted already. This is reported by Sparktorial. 60% of Google searches end with without a click, meaning like people are making a search in Google and they're not necessarily clicking to go to an answer. They're just trying to get the answer and then just moving on with their lives. And if you look at what you're seeing here is an actual a screenshot from Google's AI overview, and this is for a prompt like polybags packaging options. And this is actually what the results that you would get in the Google AI overview. Today, Google has over 100 million AI overview users, and about 14 billion searches happen on the Google search platform on a daily basis. And what you're looking here is an answer that Google AI overview provided, but the answers were brought up by with the AI platform. The Google AI overview mode is picking up all the answers from brown packaging, rapid packaging, or short packaging. So what that query is mostly what we call like a top of funnel search, polybag packaging options. Somebody's trying to research and learn about what are the options when it comes to poly bags. Typically what you would have gotten in a Google search results page would be a bunch of different long form blog page links that people would then go and click through to go and read and research and learn about on their own. What are the different polybag options? But today, AI overview mode in Google just gives you the answers. These are the different type of polybag options you can choose. But thanks to brown packaging and rapid packaging and short packaging, Google was able to get that answer and just give you the answer and not necessarily give you a reason to leave their platform to go to those websites. So what does that mean for you? You as a company that's focused on creating a ton of content in the top of funnel research and knowledge based topics, you're not going to be getting those traffic coming to you to find the answers. Like we said, 60% or more of the searches are ending in zero results, zero clicks. And the same thing is true in also in ChatGPT. ChatGPT now has well over 800 million active users. They have their own browser platform right now. So that also means there's a demand for people going to a platform like ChatGPT to make that search. And you're seeing right here in the ChatGPT response, same query, polybag packaging options. And you're given just the type of different polybag options you can choose from. And they even give some more technical answers as well. But they're not even giving you where they're getting those resources. They just gave you the answers. What does that mean? People are not having to go to another website and read a 3,000 word blog post to learn about what polybags packaging options are. They're just getting the answers right there. So this shift is has a big impact on marketers across the globe, especially in the industry and manufacturing sector. So for example, many of our clients, clients that are in electropolishing or injection molding, thermoforming, we used to create a lot of content that was just what we call like top of funnel educational or awareness stage content. Just try to get people to be informed about product options or different sort of applications and try to get people to come to you. But that traffic that we used to be able to drive is diminishing much rapidly than ever before. It doesn't mean you shouldn't be creating such content, but it's not going to drive the type of content that drove, right? The overarching strategy most marketers in this space used was write long tail, long form content that are top of funnel awareness, drive that traffic to your website, get them to consume that content. You get to cookie that person, retarget them on any platforms like LinkedIn or any other platforms, as well as put some sort of a conversion mechanism on that page they were on, whether that's a, request a quote or download our spec sheet or download this checklist or template, and then have them convert into an inquiry, and then put them in a nurture sequence inside whatever the marketing automation platform, and then continue to stay in front of them with the emails and retargeting and hoping that someday in the future they become a paying customer. That was the playbook that worked for the last 20 some years, but we're seeing that shift drastically changing that playbook, and we're having to adapt much, much rapidly because we're losing momentum from that top of funnel traffic that we used to get. So this is a very, very big shift. So what has really changed, right? In the past, the focus was primarily based on keywords and traffic. So if you've ever done any sort of search engine optimization or SEO, your primary focus was, hey, what are the top keywords that we're going for? And how is that traffic growing for those specific queries or specific keywords? Today, that's not really the case. You are focused on your brand visibility, your brand entity. Those are all the things that you're having to look at and be able to monitor. The measurement of success was the organic traffic. Most people were asking, hey, how has our organic traffic growing? Has it been trending up or down? And has there been any changes in the Google algorithm that affected our organic traffic? But the measurement now is actually how frequently are we being referenced in an AI platform, not necessarily how frequently are we getting traffic to our website from an organic traffic source. And then as far as from a content standpoint, we were mostly focused on blogs, and we were also very concerned about the backlinks, what we normally refer to as backlinks, or the domain authority of our site from other people referencing us. But now the concern is mostly around brand mentions. Are we being mentioned in third-party publications and websites? And then also the content need to be highly focused on mid-funnel content more than just top-of-funnel awareness content. And last but not least, the primary mode of traffic source was Google. That's where we generated most of our traffic from in the organic and SEO world. Now it's a multi-channel, multi-platform ecosystem where you're getting traffic from ChatGPT, Gemini, Perplexity, and every other AI platform that people are using for discovery. That is where you have to shift your energy and focus to. So you can't just put all your eggs into Google basket anymore. You have to be spreading your energy and resources into channels across all these different AI platform people are using for discovery. So that is the biggest shift and change that we're seeing in the marketplace. Also, most of the people that you're probably familiar with SEO, or search engine optimization, which was primarily a practice of optimizing your website and your content and making it technically visible to search engine platforms like Google and Bing. That was what it was mostly referred to. Today, that definition need to be redefined to more of search everywhere optimization. The goal is not just put all your eggs into the Google basket, but how do we make sure that we're optimizing and having a diversified portfolio of discovery channels that we're getting found, so that you are attracting visitors from all these different places and platforms, so that you can continue to increase your brand visibility and reach across all these platforms. And all these platforms do use different sources to determine which of these websites are most important or critical. So here's the big ask, right? If you're not doing anything about it, could you afford not to be optimizing and getting discovered in AI platform, right? So this is actually a wonderful opportunity for industry manufacturing companies. Traditionally, manufacturing companies are kind of slow adapters when it comes to new technology or new methodology of marketing, have mostly traditionally invested into trade shows and trade publications and industry sponsored webinars on industry journals. Those are what most industry manufacturing companies typically do. And there has been an increasing focus on creating content and spending energy on website and improving that online presence. But that alone isn't sufficient anymore to improve the visibility in an AI platform. So if you're here, my guess is that you are certainly interested in learning what has to be done to be proactive in getting discovered in these AI platforms, and what needs to be implemented so you can succeed and grow and be ahead of the pack, as opposed to waiting for your competitors to overtake you. So at OneIMS, everything that we do for our clients is based on systematic methodologies and framework that we built and tested over multiple years across multiple industry verticals. And all of which we're talking about is based off of some of the methodologies and framework that we will share today. One of our primary methodologies that we implement for our customers is what we call our growth formula framework. Typically, when clients are coming to us, they're looking to generate income and revenue. And that can be done in two different ways. Most manufacturing companies are really good when it comes to retention and expansion of existing clients, because once you select an industrial company or a contract manufacturer, most companies don't just leave those manufacturing suppliers, because they don't want to drastically change their supply chains. So they do a great job on the retention, but they do a very poor job on the acquisition. Many of our manufacturing clients typically say their average customer is very large. They're hard to come by, and it's mostly very difficult to break into some new customers, right? So what is the big difference we're seeing in the AI research and AI mode platforms is the acquisition side of the equation. So if you think about how do you acquire customers, typically you have two primary modes of acquisition. One is if in-market audience, your target customers are actively in a market research trying to find a supplier, they're going to platforms like Google to find a supplier. So if you're getting found in that platform, you're attracting and capturing that in-market demand. And then the other way of you can increase your customer base is to try to figure out how do you educate the market who may or may not be actively in a buying cycle, to educate them and get them to come to know who you are and how to do business with you, which is where mostly a content marketing really plays a big part in. So on that acquisition side of the equation, AI research tools, AI platforms provide an opportunity to do both, get discovered and capture that in-market audience and demand, and also create awareness for your product and services by creating content that AI can dissect and provide as answers to a user that's asking ChatGPT or Gemini for answers and get discovered in that way, right? So AI platforms are giving you an opportunity to get discovered and capture that in-market audience and buyers, as well as be proactive in educating the market who may or may not be actively looking to make a purchase. So that should give you a big picture on where in the marketing space this AI research, AI discovery falls into place. And then before I shift the gear and talk about the practical implementation, all of this, I want to do a quick poll to just get a pulse check on what are some of your biggest challenges facing your organization right now, so we can kind of structure the presentation and provide more contextually relevant answers. So give us your response to this question. What is the biggest challenge you are seeing in your digital or search strategy right now? So I'm seeing a combination of results that are kind of high. So I think based on what I'm seeing, our brand rarely gets mentioned in AI recommendations. So AI systems do not seem to reference us. So those seems to be kind of combined together, probably one of the biggest, and then not sure where to even get started. So some of you are here because you don't even know what to do to get discovered in AI, and some of you are saying we're not being referenced in an AI platform. So if you stay through the end, you're certainly going to be satisfied in the practical things that we're going to be sharing. So with that, let me have Maria share the new rule of what is changing in the search and discovery process and the customer journey.
Yeah, perfect. So before we even go into what's new, right, let's kind of go back and make sure that we take a look at that, what we consider that old or traditional journey, right? So think back a year or two ago, right, before the advent of all these AI tools and how everyone's using them on a daily basis. What did we used to do? What did our customers used to do to find us online, right? They would go to Google primarily, do some sort of search. They'll get their results and click on one result, go read a couple pages, maybe a blog post, and then eventually contact a vendor. But they would have to do this repeatedly until they actually got down to a list of five, six things, five, six quotes that they're going to ask for, or samples, whatever it might be. That's what it used to be, right? So that marketing funnel used to look like this. So how did that traditional funnel look like? Well, we would start with something in the awareness stage. Usually somebody has a problem, a challenge that they're trying to solve internally, right? They need new equipment, they need a faster process, they need something that meets some sort of standard um, requirement. So they would go, they do a search that again is more top funnel. They're understanding something, right? That's the awareness stage. Then once they kind of had a solution, it's like, okay, it's going to be between this and this, and they probably start doing some comparisons to consider what's going to end up being better for them. Maybe they read some technical papers, do a couple of things. Then eventually, once they've determined that, okay, it's going to come to this, they might be comparing one supplier versus another, one manufacturing brand versus another, and then eventually make their selection, right? But this alone used to take weeks, 15, 30 days. Again, remember, you have to do this, you have to educate yourself first on what type of machine do we want, right? What's going to be easier to add to our assembly line, to our production line, what's going to integrate with what we have, or what do we, what's our next packaging priority. We need packaging that can do this, or what's going to be better from a cost perspective, all of these things, right? But this entire research phase again took weeks, and that has dramatically changed with what we're calling the new journey today with the advent of AI. So what do we do today? What do our customers primarily do? Well, again, instead of going to Google, entering one query and then reading and finding a website and doing it all over again, they go to their AI assistant. They tell them everything that they're looking for, right? So again, they're not just going with a one, to search term or query. It's a long prompt that they're entering, right? And what comes up? Well, AI actually does all that work for them. Whereas before, they used to have to do the manual work of checking out every single site, seeing if they're legitimate, seeing if they like the website, finding the right page for the service, and then contacting, submitting a quote request. All of this gets synthesized for them, and AI just says, hey, here's your top 5 vendors for this, or your top machines for this. And then at that point, it's just a matter of contacting your vendors, right? So if we look at the new funnel today, right, it looks a little bit like this. You enter that prompt, which again, prompts, we used to talk about long tail keywords. So a keyword used to be, maybe 3, 4 words, right? And that's considered, what we used to call in the SEO world, a long tail keyword. And that's what we're going after, a little more highly qualified traffic visitor. But now that's no longer enough. Queries now, a prompt in something like ChatGPT is, hundreds of words. It is no longer just, 2, 3 search terms, right? And these are all highly unique because people are entering their specific situation, what type of industry they're in, maybe what size, what equipment they have in their plants. Everything is highly personalized. So all of this research that used to take us, through multiple websites, multiple quote requests, all of these things, over a span of weeks, now takes maybe a couple of minutes, right? That's it. And the biggest shift is that, again, we went from, really focusing on our website as the key driver of everything, right? Because Google would find our pages, say, hey, these are quality, let's rank them highly and drive people to these websites. Now, all of this is not necessarily dependent on our website, and we're going from being discovered as a brand to being considered as a potential vendor and evaluated on whether we actually have the right things, do we have the right equipment, the right reviews, the right reputation, and finally that selection, all within, again, minutes. So AI is going to give you, here's the top companies, and here's the best ones because of ABCD, and you make your decision at that point. You're like, okay, based on this, I'm going to go with these 3. And then you just go on and do your, quote request. And that's it. That is going again from being a long journey to, one short, quick, decision. And that's the biggest shift we're seeing that obviously is something that we need to take advantage of.
And it's a continuum, not a compartmentalized, as Maria was explaining earlier, awareness, consideration, decision. It's kind of all happening in that continuum in one sitting in most cases, as opposed to spread across multiple weeks, which means it can truncate your entire sales, customer discovery and learning and researching and determining who to go with in a much shorter time span. That means you are able to drive prospects to come to you in a much faster pace than you would have if you're only just focused on traditional online marketing of just focus on SEO or something like that. So with that, we want to do a one other pulse check. Which priority aligns most with your goals over the next 6 months? We kind of want to see, based on this information you're learning, what is kind of your priority for the next 6 months? So increase visibility in AI search, improve brand authority and credibility seems to be the primary. So I can assure you that for the next few practical slides that we're going to be sharing, you are going to get the answer to those questions for sure. With that, Maria, let's unveil the framework that we've implemented for our customers.
Perfect. Okay, so I know since many of you said, hey, we want to get better AI visibility, right? Well, here's what we've been working on and what we've discovered based on what we've seen has been that shift and what that means for our customers and how do we help them overcome that shift. So when it comes to the new AI era, here's what we need to focus on, right? It's not just being discovered, right? This loop is all about, yes, getting discovered in AI, but also building that trust. So we need to build our, yes, are we visible, but also building trust at the same time. And we'll talk about what we're calling our MAPS framework. And each of those letters stand for an actionable item of things that you need to look for in order to increase, again, your AI visibility that comes with it. So let's get started with the M in MAPS. So one of the very first things, and this, essentially goes back to one of the original things that we've always talked about in marketing, right? Buyer personas, understanding our buyers and modeling that intent. So back in the day, you might have done a persona about, hey, who's our ideal customer? Okay, it's Susie or it's Bob, and here's what his job role is, and here's how he gets measured, and here's the things that he is looking for, why he chooses a provider, and so on and so on. That is still critical, and we need to continue to better even understand those potential buyers and prospective customers to better give them what they're in, what they need, right? So understanding their needs and challenges is really important. So think about all of these buyer personas that we have and understand what are the things that they're usually going to be researching, right? So what are those awareness questions and things that they might be looking for? And then when they're considering, something on their end, whether it's your service or, your products, whatever you may be offering, what will they be comparing? What are the things that they're going to end up trying to decipher which one's better for them? And then evaluating, how do they evaluate, you as a vendor versus somebody else, right? Is it looking at your reviews? Is it looking at, case studies? How are they going to be doing that? And then finally making those decisions, right? So we need to do this for those buyers, right? And we need to figure out, how do we create that so that everyone in our organization understands this, right? But also remember that I assume most of us, we all do as all businesses, right, have more than one persona. So this exercise is something that you need to repeat across the board for every one of your personas. So it could be that engineer, it could be that plant manager, the foreman, whoever it is that's part of your personas. You need to do this across the board so that you have them in mind and know what types of questions they'd be going to AI for. So moving on to, well, how do we know what types of questions are asking, right? So, well, we still have, access to a couple of things. One, we still can do keyword research from, things like Google and such to understand, frequently asked questions about the topics and our services and our products. We can also now start learning and seeing prompt data, meaning what prompts are people entering that are relevant to our niche, our vertical in manufacturing and better understanding, how do we do there, right? Also, obviously, social media, forums, anywhere that our customers might be going and asking questions. That's another place to know that we can pull, what's important to them. And then one of the other things too is if you have a sales team or a support team, technical team, whoever might be part of your overall team, asking them what are those questions that they're coming to you time and time again. What are those things that they're having, hesitations about? What are the things that they're looking for? So all of that is really critical for us to have a better understanding of what each of our buyers are actually interested in and what we need to then measure. Are we actually doing a good job at providing all of this via our website and everything else online about us?
Yeah, and then if you're especially having virtual meetings on platforms like Zoom, and if you have an AI note taker that's joining those conversations, you could be prompting from there. You can be getting the commonly asked questions that are coming up in sales conversations, challenges that they're facing, questions that they have about your integrations, your specific functionality or capabilities. All of those are questions that they're asking your salespeople on those calls. These AI tools that you're already using in your day-to-day operation in call transcripts could also be supporting you in identifying the type of prompts and queries your prospective customers are asking AI platforms, because the same conversations are what they're going to ChatGPT with.
Okay. So now we talked about, first we got to do our due diligence, try to figure out what those questions are. And one of the ways we do that is now looking at things like prompt data, right? So here's an example of what that could look like for your company, right? And the key here is the A part, which is answer clearly. So once we identify what those questions are, whether it's a question that you see off of your sales calls, your technical support team, or something like this, or prompts are actually telling us here's how you show up in ChatGPT and all those other platforms. The idea is that if you're not talking about this on your website or being referenced for it on the web, then obviously we're not going to do well, right? So making sure that we address these things the way they are is going to be critical, right? So things like, for example, if you see here, so you have some budget options, right? So it's best automation systems for small metalworking fabrication shops. If you don't talk about, metalworking fabrication shops, you might have a little sentence here we work with. That's not enough, right? So you really have to be clear about answering these specific questions if you want to be visible, if you want to be a reference and shown for these. So understanding what people are looking for and then directly answering them on your website through content. And we'll talk about more about what types of content we'll need. But that's going to be critical as that's the only way you're going to be referenced. So speaking of content, right, what is it that we need? So just like we saw, people are very specific to what they're searching for. So it's not just an anonymous search of, I need a packaging line equipment. No, it's now I need equipment for this type of company with this type of volume that needs to do this. There's a lot of information that's provided, right? So use case content is going to be really important. So leveraging application pages, case studies, any of this is going to be really important to try to make sure that we cover our typical customer and their challenges and what situations they may be in so that we can be referenced in some of those AI prompts. Comparison pages, these are huge. If you have comparisons between your processes, maybe there's a different process that maybe seems inferior to yours or that might seem better but isn't, we need to be able to talk about that. Or it could be brands, right? Somebody's comparing equipment, this versus this. You need to be able to talk about that. So comparing anything that makes sense within your niche is going to be really critical. Integration guides. So again, especially if your equipment or anything like that, or even how you integrate within the whole manufacturing um, process. Again, you might be at the beginning of that process or middle or end. It's going to be important for you to have those available on your site. And then lastly, interactive tools. This one is a pretty critical one. And I know it's one that sometimes seems like it's a little harder to do, but think about, we just talked about the fact that a lot of our searches, whether it's on Google or even on these AI tools, end up in 0 clicks, right? People don't come to our site because they've gotten their answer. There's no need for them to click and come and read, and there isn't that need anymore, right? But when you have a tool, when you have something they can physically use to do something, to make their lives easier, to calculate something for them, to give them something in exchange, they will come. And again, that is something that AI tools and such can't take away, right? Because they'll still need to come to you. And again, now you can start using these interactive tools as a way to get them to convert, to get to know your visitors. And again, it's also good from the SEO perspective. People will start referencing, hey, they have this really great tool to help you calculate ABCD. So again, something that makes sense within your industry for your customers. Identifying interactive tools is going to be another important type of content to create going forward.
Yeah, and one thing I would just add, for example, when Maria was talking about comparison pages, think of like a electro polishing company that's creating polishing solutions for medical grade metal parts or medical grade instruments and something like that. So creating pages that talk about electro polishing versus passivation for medical grade devices or components or metal parts. And if you create such content pieces, when people are going to ChatGPT, ask which metal polishing option is right for my medical device part used for this application. And if your content is the one that's being referenced and bringing answers back to them, and that is going to get your brand discovered in that AI search. So in the back of the day, they were just looking for a blog post that might give an answer in a Google search, but now you want to be getting discovered in AI platforms. And we're going to get to in a little bit talking about the metrics, how that's going to be different from a traditional Google and organic search traffic metrics that we use to track versus what the key KPIs that we should be measuring. And then one other thing about the interactive tools that I would add is if you want your people that are browsing and researching on a platform like ChatGPT to leave that platform to come to your website to do some work, right? Some research, some analysis, that is essentially where any sort of interactive tools can be extremely useful. For example, if you have a product configurator that you can make available, so somebody's asking about which option is right for their specific application, and say, hey, use this free product configurator engine, or use this product comparison tool, or use this ROI calculator, where they can actually go and manipulate the data based on their specific use cases and application. And if that's made available on your website, and if ChatGPT is able to tell them, hey, here's the resource, go use it, that's one way to get them off of ChatGPT or Gemini or Perplexity or any other platform somebody's using for research and planning, to leave the platform, come to your website, use your interactive tool. Now, all of a sudden, you got that visitor to come to you. And so you have to be thinking of not just feeding the beast, which is all these AI platforms, they want information so they can serve their end user. But we also need to be thinking about what can I be doing from a content creation standpoint that will attract those people off of those platforms to come to my website, know my company, know my brand, know my logo, know my capabilities and credentials, and then also take the next step in that buying process of scheduling that consultation or filling out a form to book an appointment or demo or whatever the case might be. With that, we wanted to do another poll. Essentially, one of the next questions that we want to see an answer from is, which type of content do you feel your company is missing? I know we touched on several different type of content types that you could be creating. We would like to see where you feel like you have some opportunity for improvement. So it seems like comparison, ROI calculators, all of the above. Use case content. So that could be your action item from a content creation standpoint. So thinking of what are the type of content that is very useful for your customers and even for your sales organization as well. If you're creating these sort of resources, those can be utilized in a sales conversation, bring up and have an interactive conversation as well, right? Certainly look into interactive tools, and most certainly you do need multiple format of content types to make sure that you're feeding these AI platforms. Now on to the next letter in our framework.
Yeah, so now we're down to P, prove and place. And this is one of the things that we've discovered is very critical when it comes to AI. One of the things before AI, we used to rely solely on our website. And if our website ranked or whatever was on our website, we controlled, and that was sufficient. Well, the big difference is that AI doesn't just take whatever our website says. It actually goes out there and tries to actually validate that. And that's one of the biggest changes we're seeing, that is something that can obviously leave us or out of this AI game if we're not doing it. Because people are going to these tools and they want to know the best, the top, the easiest, the cheapest, the best performing, whatever that is, right? But AI doesn't just take our word for it based on what's on our website. They go out and validate that based on industry sites, on industry journals, communities and creators. So you've heard of the Reddits and all of these things, right? So they're looking to prove what we're asking for, right? So one of the biggest shifts is that you're not just concerned with our content on our website, but also, are we on other websites that are highly cited and where AI is actually going to look for answers? So it's really critical that we start looking outside of our own website for our own visibility. And for us in the manufacturing world, what does that look like? So there are very specific places that we can start looking at and identifying, how visible are we on, right? So look at things like industrial directories. Do we have profiles? Are they well filled out? Do they encompass all our services and our messaging? Do we have everything available there, right? Trade publications. So anything within your particular vertical, are we listed? Are there articles about us? Is there anything that we can do to get brand mentions there? Anything business credibility, so maybe a Better Business Bureau, anything that makes sense for you. General business media, so again, if constantly you're being talked about. Community forums, maybe there's some very specific engineering forums. And then, of course, yes, we still look at Google authority, right? How well you rank. But again, a lot of this shift is making sure that you're also highly visible and found on third-party publications and sites in order to validate that you indeed have, the right answer, or you are the best or the most recommended for a particular prompt that's entered.
Yeah, and one thing I would add also is that it's very difficult to get, obviously, to have OSHA or some of those government agencies to write about you. This is where you have an opportunity to use first-party data you might have. So if you have an R&D team that's doing research on a specific use case or application, or you've discovered a unique method or methodology for solving a specific business problem with your manufacturing process, and if you can create content around that, those could be something that can get cited in an industry journal, or could also be referenced by government agencies and publications. So those are things that you need to start thinking about, not just what Maria mentioned, your website and just your content, but thinking of what else can we be doing that is much more valuable to the entire industry as a whole, so that we can get cited and recognized and build our reputation in the marketplace. So think of such opportunities. And I know in the manufacturing sectors, there's always that fear of we don't want to disclose our secret sauce, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're giving away your secret sauce, but actually displaying your capabilities and your specific unique abilities on how you can solve business challenges. So getting recognized in the industry is becoming even more important. And then also finding opportunity to do collaboration, right? Especially if these industry publications that are looking for content, could we contribute content based on the information that we have, based on the probably the data that we actually have, right? So finding such opportunity to be able to contribute content to those publications. So think about building what we call like a digital PR, not just in a traditional public relations sense. Hey, we want to be in a good light is the best place to work. Getting some of those certificate, but also thinking about in the industry, could we create nice digital recognition for us by contributing quality content that are worthwhile and educational resourceful for our marketplace.
Okay, so now we're at our last letter in our framework, which is S for maps. And this one, again, it's something that you've probably heard of if you've done SEO traditionally in the past as a company, but it's actually more critical than ever. So the structure and the freshness of your content is even more important than it was before. Why? One, AI bots and engines are not as sophisticated as Google, so they rely heavily on how well your content and your pages and your website functions and presents that information to them. So it's actually even more important than what Google used to ask for in terms of, that technical soundness of your website and the freshness factor. So again, Google, typically doesn't rearrange their rankings that often, but AI looks at freshness of content as a great indicator of where do I find the best answer? Well, content that is fresher is usually going to be better. So making sure that one, our content that we're creating, we talk about use cases, comparisons, tools, right? If we're not doing a good job at actually structuring it and formatting it and putting it up on our website, then it's not going to be picked up or referenced as much, just because it's not able to, AI engines are not able to actually find it and parse that information off of our website. And two, making it fresh, right? So making sure that everything from a technical perspective is actually working well is going to be extra critical now. So if you already know that your website has challenges from a functional perspective, you need to make sure that you address those. So if you have issues with your CMS, your title tags, you don't have markup, your H tags, tables, all of these things that we need to be able to optimize and actually clarify to search engines and just to know what content's on our pages, these are going to be really important going forward. So the technical soundness of your site is something to pay attention to.
And then also on a page level basis, and as Maria alluded to, right, most people who are in the SEO game already know about title tag and meta descriptions and maybe like the H tags, but they were not mostly introducing structured data for tables or FAQs. So every page that you have on your site need to look at it on a page by page basis. What is the specific use of this content here? What more could I add to this that can actually feed the AI engines to be able to provide us an answer or response in a search query? So AI is actually just looking at that one page and trying to parse that data and then get the information and then provide that as an answer to somebody who's making that search happen. So that is the reason why the technical readiness of a site is even more critical on a page by page basis, and looking at it and refreshing it as frequently as possible just to make sure that it doesn't look stale in the eyes of AI platforms. So I have one more poll. And before I talk about the KPIs and metrics that we need to measure in this new AI era. So the question we have is actually kind of like two questions in one. First and foremost, based on the information we've shared today, based on the framework and methodology, how confident you are in how you perceive your website is ranking in AI platform. Seems like many of you think is moderate. And then the second question is, how much does an average customer spend with you on an annual basis? So it seems like somewhere in the range of 50,000, a good majority, and some are even into the hundreds and 150,000 plus range. So it seems like not sure. Many of you are not sure whether or not you are appearing in AI search, or you at least feel like you are, but pretty weak or maybe moderately sure about it. And 15 to about 50,000 being your average order value. So with that, Maria, let's talk about, and you should see a QR code coming up here so you can scan for some of the resources we'll be making available. Let's talk about the metrics and what is the difference between the old metrics and new metrics.
Yeah. So as we kind of referenced before, right? So primarily before we were talking all about AI, right? What were we looking for as marketers, especially on the SEO side? Well, we were looking for, hey, how well do we rank for injection molding company, right? And are we spot one, two, three, four? Are we on page two? And then from there, what was our traffic like, right? Obviously, the higher rankings typically would mean higher traffic, right? And then we look at backlinks, with the authority of our site, and then people, when they got to our site, how much they stayed on the site, how many pages they viewed. That's what we were interested in, right? So everything that basically was pointing back to our site. Today, when we're talking about new metrics, well, we actually are looking outside our website, right? So it's not just how often our website is showing up on a search result, but hey, in AI visibility, are people recommending us? Are actually they talking about us? Is our brand being talked about? And citations do all these places where AI is going to, right, to find, hey, who's the best or what's the best machinery, et cetera. Are we there? Do they validate what we are saying as a company? And then, share a voice. In comparison to our competition, are we the number ones showing up every time somebody references anything regarding, our service or product? Or are we rarely showing up, right? Because we want to dominate those conversations. Because as we talked about, that time frame of discovery to selection is very quick. And if we're not even there, then we're going to be totally missing out on even being an option for them.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest thing to keep in mind, right? Because the platforms are that customer journey is being shortened very to several minutes, if not maybe hours, to have them discover a company, determine what solution to choose, and then deciding to make a contact. So that's happening, and this is actually just a snapshot of what a AI visibility report that we provide to our clients, and we're tracking AI visibility percentage, the number of answers were being mentioned, the number of pages are being cited, as well as our score in terms of what our AI score is. And there's also a factor of a sentiment, which is another thing AI platform is actually good at tracking, especially if you have any sort of negative sentiment in the marketplace where people are complaining about your process or your product or your environmental impact in the world because of your chemical plant or whatever the case might be. You want to be monitoring that because the AI platform will surface up mentions of that. And we even have one client that actually does energy. They do waste to energy conversion. They have a lot of negative connotation about their brand in the public space because a lot of waste disposal that happens in communities that they have a lot of bad reputation. So AI platform, when somebody's researching, it actually surfaces up, even though they're trying to look up a company that can help with waste to energy conversion, but they see a lot of negative connotation and they could be losing business because of that, right? But at least you want to be aware of where those brand mentions are happening in the negative sense so you can monitor that. So our AI visibility report actually provides that sentiment and then shows you where that is happening. So with that, here's a quick overview of what we touched on, right? Just as in the traditional sense, you still need to understand your buyer, who they are, where they, what are their pain points, what are their concerns, what is their job to be done, and where are they congregate for information, or where are they getting the answers. So once we have that converted into a prompt, now we have to answer, well, how do we answer those questions that people have in the queries that they're putting into the preferred AI platform, right? So how do we answer that? And then not only are we answering those in the form of content of different content types, how do we earn trust in the eyes of AI platform, which is where we have to prove in place, make sure that we're getting cited and brand mentioned as a brand across every industry publications or journals that we can actually get our brand mentioned. Last but not least, just because of the freshness and frequency of how it needs to be updated, AI platforms really give a lot more credit to a website that actually is being constantly updated. And then also just the structural readiness of a site to get crawled or scanned or referenced in an answer engine. So those are all the main thing that we covered in the framework. So with that, I wanted to kind of give you a few resources that we promised you. So we talked about AI readiness checklist, which is something you can use internally to do a self-assessment of your AI readiness. We'll kind of go through the framework that we walk through here and help you do a kind of like a checklist to see where do you feel like you have an opportunity for improvement. But as you can see, most of you responded. A good majority have said, hey, a moderate to very weak AI visibility is what you perceive your brand have. And then you also mentioned your average order value somewhere between 15 to 50,000 for the good majority, and some are well over $50,000. So my question to you is this: you have all this information. You learn that AI is definitely one of the major driver of business discovery for people. You have a lot of younger buyers in your market today. A lot of your traditional old school relationship based customers are actually retiring and or even leaving that industrial sector. So you have a lot of younger people coming into the market, are much more technology focused, technology native users, somewhat in many cases a little bit lazy, and they want quick answers. They're going to ChatGPT and Gemini looking for recommendation of suppliers and companies that they can choose to do business with, right? A lot of the younger engineers and analysts that are coming to the job, coming to workforce, are probably asked to say, "Oh, go do vendor research, go do some supplier research, find companies that can do this or that, or find cost saving options for this." So what are they doing? Going to ChatGPT, Gemini to do that research. And if they're doing that research, my question to you is, if your average customer is worth 50,000 plus an annual, could you afford not to be found in AI search, right? Is it worth just ignoring it? Because it's one thing to have this knowledge and know that, hey, we need to be on AI, we got to get found. And good majority of you said we're using it on a daily, weekly basis. So if you're using it, so are your customers using it on a daily basis. So the question to you is, could you afford to sit around, just wait for this trend to pass? Or are you 100% sure that you need to take action on it?